Hello everyone. Right away I want to thank you for coming back to my channel for another video. Today we're addressing the age-old question of why is reading so boring? Now before I say too much, I'll add that I don't think reading is always boring, but it certainly can be. And I want to address why it can be so boring because I want to make this video as worthwhile as I can. I want to help you achieve your goals and actualize your full potential. That's kind of the entire point of this channel. It's what we're trying to do. I teach 1 or 2 semester-long reading and writing intensive undergraduate courses at Johns Hopkins University, and today I'm going to tell you the same thing that I tell my students at the beginning of each semester. Reading can be exciting. It can also be incredibly boring. Maybe you read often, maybe you hardly ever read. By talking about why the act of reading can be so boring, I think we put ourselves in a better position to get the most out of the books we give our time to, which is to say that by understanding why reading can be boring, we can become better readers and we can make the act of reading significantly more enjoyable. So that's what I'm trying to do. I hope that you'll stick with me to the end and let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and maybe even smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. Anyways, brief moment of self-promotion out of the way. Let's return to this video's fundamental question. Why can reading be so boring? I think one of the main reasons reading can be so boring is it's said so often that it almost feels like a cliche, and honestly, maybe it is. But nevertheless, I think a huge reason why reading can be so boring is because with the advent of different forms of story, TV, YouTube, TikTok, just to name a few, focusing on a single story, in this specific example, a book, for an extended period of time is metaphorically similar to waking up one day and saying to ourselves, yeah, I think I'll run a marathon today, having done no training or preparatory work whatsoever. And I know that that might seem a little silly when I put it like that. Obviously, reading a book and running a marathon are two very different things, but I'm trying to offer you an analogy that you can use to understand why reading can be so boring. Sure, we're not going to physically exhaust ourselves reading a book, although admittedly that depends upon the book you read and the author. Not gonna name any names. I guess the more precise thing to say is that when we read a book, we're not going to physically exhaust ourselves to the same degree as we might if we were to run a marathon, even though I think the comparison is still there. The point I'm trying to make is that most of us spend more time watching TV or YouTube or TikTok or scrolling through Twitter or Facebook than we do actually reading books, and the importance of that can be pretty easy to overlook when we think about why reading can be so boring. But I want you to consider what form most of the stories you consume throughout the day take, because it really matters. Are they stories that reward your attention span and consequently strengthen your attention span, or are they stories that lean toward instant gratification and like quick dopamine hits? And I should say right away that I'm a graduate student at Johns Hopkins University. Okay, I teach a reading and writing intensive course, already said that, and the overwhelming majority of the stories I consume throughout the day are not long and like well-constructed literary masterpieces. They are tweets and TikToks and poorly worded Facebook posts and news headlines that are designed to stroke my dopamine receptors enough so that I'm overcome by a blinding and all-consuming rage. And I want to be totally clear when I say that, because I'm not some guru who walks the enlightened path and is trying to sell you on that or like whatever. Reading can be really boring, and I think a big reason why it can be so boring is because every time we consume information that doesn't play to long-term focusing, we're programming our attention span to something that isn't exactly conducive with reading a book that's a few hundred pages long. Basically what I'm saying is this: reading is long-distance running. Most of the easily accessible media we come across caters to sprinting or shorter distance running, to build on the metaphor still. Watching TikToks? Sprinting. Reading Moby Dick? The opposite of a sprint. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you see where I'm coming from, what I'm trying to do. But now on to the second half of this video. Okay, why can reading be boring? This point is a quick one. If you're bored when you read, I think that you should probably do the same thing that you do when you encounter a YouTube video that bores you. Pick something else, move on, put the book down. Who cares? There are literally billions and billions of books out there. Don't let some disinterested and passionless high school English teacher turn you off to reading forever. Whatever it is that you're interested in, if you're willing to do a bit of digging, you can find a book that will interest you. I don't care if it's like fishing or welding or kite surfing or some niche kind of gardening, whatever. And I think you should want to find a book that interests you because it's one of the best ways that we can consume information. And plus, if you don't want to find a book that interests you, if you say, I hate reading and I'm not good at reading, and you refuse to dedicate any time to practicing reading, then that teacher you had when you were growing up, they won. They beat you. That terrible English teacher that you had when you were a kid who turned you off to reading and writing forever, they are still with you. The memory of them is still with you, and it's following you, and they're beating you, and your refusal to read is a concession. And to that we say, boo. Never give up. Read with the intention of actualizing your full potential and achieving your goals. So, on to the third thing. Why else can reading be so boring? Aside from what I'll call the genre differences separating like books from, what would you say, visual, digital media? Here's my answer. Habit and or the absence of habit. So before I go any further, I'm going to say that when I talk about habit, I'm going to use myself as an example because it's easy and I know that the clock is ticking. Okay, so how did I end up teaching undergraduate classes at Johns Hopkins? Two big reasons stand out in my mind. The first is that I come from a long line of English teachers, meaning there were always books around the house, which I think was important because having books around the house just translated to an increased probability that I'd turn to a book for entertainment sometimes. And the second is that I was fortunate enough to have great English teachers who supported me and encouraged me. And I mention both of these because it has to do with the habit of reading. The reasons I think reading tends to bore me less is because, like I've already said, the habit was possible at an early age, it was easily accessible at an early age, and it was heavily encouraged at an early age. I wasn't necessarily conscious of how boring reading could be when I was a kid. It was just something I guess I did long enough to get into, like almost anything else we do when we're kids. And I think that's important because to keep reading from being boring, I think one thing we can do is to try approaching the task with the lightheartedness that we might have had as children. So reading can be boring, but what can we do about that? Like I've already said, we can read books that interest us, but we should also have a long-term mindset. Closely following the gradual development of a single idea for an extended period of time strengthens our ability to focus. And in that way, reading is like a workout. It's like that long distance run we go on from time to time. And it's important to have that mindset because it informs our understanding of the stakes. So reading might be boring today. The good news though is this: you don't have to read for more than 15 minutes at a time. It's no different from working out. I mean, maybe running, because I guess technically workouts are longer. So say you want to be a better runner. Start small. You don't have to run the marathon right away. You can run a mile a day. It'll take a few minutes every day, and as time goes on, you'll get better. Pretty soon you'll be running 2 miles, you'll be running 3 miles, 5 miles, 8 miles. You get the point. And I say all of that because I want to convince you that reading is something that virtually anyone can become great at, even though it can be, admittedly, yes, extremely boring. The best solution that I can offer is to try having a long-term mindset. Reading for 15 minutes a day, sustained for months on end, will make you a better reader. It will produce positive results. And maybe most importantly, it will improve your ability to focus. And that's a skill that is almost universally applicable. You think about the benefits of being able to focus when you're at work or on a date, or I don't know, those were the only two things that popped into mind. But there are obviously more opportunities throughout your day, your life, when you can rely on your focus. So yes, reading can be boring, but that doesn't mean that it has to stay that way. There's actually something you can do about it, and it is a shame that your teachers didn't tell you that. In my opinion, it's entirely dependent upon one, the books that we pick, and two, dedicating the time to practicing the act of reading and making it a habit. Because when you make it a habit, you increase the probability that you're going to get better at it as time goes on. And that's it. 90% or whatever the saying is, 90% is just showing up. It's just making reading a habit. Okay, that is everything that I've got. I want to thank my wonderful, wonderful video editors and best friends, Joe and Bach. I really appreciate all of your hard work. I couldn't put out these videos without your help. And of course, I want to thank you, my lovely viewer. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to watch my video. My friends and I hope you found something that was interesting or valuable, and we also hope you'll come back next time. For now though, I'll say thank you once again for supporting our channel. We hope you'll hit that like button and hit that subscribe button and let us know what you think in the comment section down below. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you